All right, we are at a sweet spot. We are going to spend 2 minutes looking at this slide, and then we are going to move on to the next module that we had planned for you today. So this is not something which is very alien to us. Earlier, this used to be a very big topic. People actually needed support, guidance. But now, especially after the pandemic, I think most of us have become very agile and very well trained as to how to balance working and learning. And I would say working, learning, and doing other things also along with it. So let's see some of the recommendations that we are making. um, some might work for you, some might not work for you. So pick and choose whatever works for you. Okay. So those who are doing regular work, unfortunately, still have to go to work every day. Most of the places have hybrid working now, but still there are companies where you have to go to work every day. For example, sales executives have to go to work every day. Factory workers have to go to work every day. People, research scientists have to go to work every day. So mix and match. So one of the things is make your commute time count. Now, this can be excellent for auditory learning. You can read a book, you can listen to stuff, you can browse stuff. There are enough and more ways to make sure that you um, do not let your commute time go. I have a contrary opinion to it as well, because we give our eyes to screen time for such a long time. It might be also a great idea to just relax and do nothing. Now, this is something which is very strange. Most of the people whom I see outside, be in the metro, be in cabs or anywhere else, it looks like scrolling is a thing. It has become like a disease. People just have to scroll. They cannot take their eyes off screens. So one of the things that I can share, I personally do, is because we are on one form of a screen or another almost all the time. If I'm commuting and I'm not driving, I try to keep my eyes closed. It gives me a power nap, allows me to gather my thoughts, and also reprioritize my to-do list. So this is an energetic trick that you might try. In the middle of the day, recalibrate your to-do list. Where is my attention required right now? There might be some thinking that you're required to do. There might be some crunching, data crunching, or just sitting with an idea that you're required to do and you're commuting. Instead of frantically working on a laptop and trying to send a sheet, just give it a timeout. Try and sit with the idea that you are with and execute it. This is the same thing when we are saying working and learning together. If you are pursuing a course or if you're learning something new along with your job, you might want to also make sure that you do a timeout when you're out from work and you want to spend that time either learning something new, and make sure that the work doesn't creep into that. It will have a tendency, but you can make a conscious choice. Or just like I do, sometimes just sit with your eyes closed. Make your commute time count. Doesn't mean that you have to study at that time. Make it count in the best way that supports your body, supports your career, and supports your evolution as a learning expert. In case you are adding, for example, I recommended a course that you can do this. People can say do an MBA. People can do a SAP course. Somebody is saying do an SHRM course. Somebody is saying doing an ISTD course. Inform your supervisor ahead in time. And please negotiate a mutually beneficial way of working. Otherwise, what will happen is people will call you on Saturdays and Sundays. So तुम Tuesday को जल्दी चले गए थे, ये हो गया है, कैसे करना है? It completely disturbs the equilibrium that is required for you to be present and alert in your learning exercise. And guys, remember, this is no longer optional. There used to be a time when people would learn 3 skills and their entire life would go. They will retire, they will be very happy, life was good. But now, unless and until you keep evolving, keep learning new skills, there is a very high probability that you will no longer be required. Not that you are not important as a human being, we all love you, but we don't have any use of your skills. So it's important to keep upskilling yourself. So this is non-negotiable. We all have to figure out new and better and efficient ways of keep learning new things. So for us to be relevant, if you remember, we had a short conversation about sustainability of workforce. It used to be for Earth. Nowadays, we are also talking about workforce. So this is where we tie those knots, and why this is why we are spending some time on this slide. Apply the concepts that you are learning, which we are right now doing. Apply the concepts that you're learning on your job and see how they are. Share those learnings with your colleagues. Ask them for ideas if they're failing miserably and recalibrate. Celebrate small wins. If you have applied a new concept and it has given you a win, you do not have to scream from rooftops, but you can celebrate a success. You can share it with your team and you can share it with other people. And that happiness can be an inspiration itself for other people to also try and learn something new. So now this one is lovely, said, but very difficult done. Saying no to additional work or projects. I completely understand. It might not be possible, but it's again a recommendation. Try and say that if possible. For example, last 2 weeks I have had to do some additional work. So I have actually said no to some of the work, saying that stack it up, we'll do it later, we'll find time for it later, we cannot do it right now. So I was fortunate enough to have that flexibility. Not everybody is. So I understand it might not be possible. It's a recommendation. If it is, it's ideal. Discuss and share progress with colleagues. I think I already covered it. Whatever you're learning, share it with people. It can intrigue people, make you what should I say, hot potato. She's learning something new. And it can also give you some well-intended positive limelight, which can be helpful for your career, and also to prove not only to anyone else, but also to make sure that you have the right attention to show people that I'm a learning expert and I'm not shy of learning. So even my journey is not complete. I'm a lifelong student. So that is something that I live with. I recommend people to do that because that keeps you humble and keeps you agile. Otherwise, you're in your comfort zone. And what happens if you're in comfort zone for too long? What happens? What happens if you're in your comfort zone for too
Learning stops. Learning stops.
Growth will be stagnant.
long? Growth will be
You will
stagnant.
become irrelevant over a
You'll
period of
become that sofa. You'll become that sofa that people eventually throw out. Yeah. There is, yes, Ganesh.
Not people, I think the situation will throw you out.
Yes, the situation will throw you out. And
Yeah.
there is this beautiful example that is in Dale Carnegie. Not example, it's actually one of the 7 habits. Sharpen your X, right? A knife lying in cold salt water is still a knife. It can still cut. But if it's in water for too long, it still cuts, but the efficiency goes. So you have to sharpen your knife or axe or whatever you want to call it. Keep that in mind. It's one of the most effective habits that has kept me sane, because many people have actually said that, why do you need to do this at this age? Why do you need to start this? Oh my God, you just make it difficult for us. We have difficulty in keeping up. But the reality is that the more and more we are vulnerable, we actually discover how much more we have space for and how much of the short-term memory we can actually empty. And we value the long-term memory cabinet space. We actually know what is worth storing instead of garbage, instead of Instagram reels, instead of a list of movies that you still have to binge on Netflix. I'm not saying it's wrong, but everything done in moderation is great. But make sure that we as learning experts are also an inspiration for other people to go on their learning journey, not in 1 year, not in 2 years, for lifelong. Avoid wasting time, stick to your schedule again as much as possible because it's a guidance. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes our schedules get turned upside down. But if this is a sanity check, you will at least make 20% effort to make sure that it happens. Rest of it is additional reading. I will share some of it, and some of them are really, really intriguing. For example, Happiness at Workplace is a wonderful article to read. It also talks about how learning and continuously upgrading yourself contributes to happiness at a psychological level. It helps the happy hormones to get released. Who can name the happy hormones for me?
Oxytocin.
serotonin,
And
Dopamine.
dopamine. There
dopamine,
you go. All
Dopamine.
3 of them. Yes.
norepinephrine,
Dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. All right.
norepinephrine.
Notifications.
Yeah. So, guys, we have a lot of stuff as additional reading. I repeat it in every session because I do hope that new people come on every session. These are not mandates. These are aids, reading aids. What is mandate is your book and the presentation. The content is a mandate because otherwise you will not be able to do your exam well. But the additional readings are learning aids. If you read them, if you try to connect the dots, the learning anchor points, your first recall, FTR, first time right. The first recall is faster, your retention is faster. Okay. There are some interesting challenges of e-learning that we have listed on a table in the book. You'll be able to see that. And there's some chatbot assistance that we're talking about teaching language. Again, it's really fun to see how chatbots can actually teach you a language. So if you like it, I will share some of them as PDF, the ones that I have, some of them as links. Feel free to explore. We are moving into the second module that I had planned for you guys. Give me a minute while I pull that up. This will be module number 4. And I promise to keep it very light because you guys have actually gone through a huge segment. I'll try and keep it as light as possible. All right. But this is serious stuff, guys. We are now in module number 4. 4 will be done in 2 pieces. Like I said, some modules are huge. We break them into 2 pieces. And then we distribute the content in a way that we get enough time to discuss, moderate a bit, and understand in real context how life and the learning works for us. So here we are going to talk about my favorite topic, which is continuous learning. We just spoke about continuous improvement when we spoke about Six Sigma and all these wonderful tools and methods and parameters. Now we are going to talk about continuous learning and the benefits of it. And what does it really mean? Continuous learning, what does that mean? So what is continuous learning? Strategy, culture, technology trends, creating continuous learning through technology. We're going to talk about latest technology concepts. We're going to talk about chatbots, gamification. Guys, these are not detailed topics. Please don't get overwhelmed. These are not pages and pages and pages of information. Most of you are intelligent enough to already know what these are. I'm touching upon these so that these can all be nicely strung together as a combined solution to continuous learning. Each of them will be explored separately in different subjects that you're doing. I'm touching upon them because I don't want you to feel inadequately equipped when you are finally amping up to the LMS module. Okay. So what will be covered in 4.1, which is the first half of the module? We'll not cover a lot. We'll cover some solid pieces which will help the building stand, which will be 4.2. What is continuous learning? The strategy. How do you build a culture of continuous learning? Technology trends, which is just one slide. It's just a visual menu of various options for you to choose from, and creating continuous learning through technology. So this slide will actually complement each other. The rest of it, it's a story for the next session. So we are going to talk about continuous learning. So what comes to your mind? Actually, we did talk about continuous improvement when we spoke about quality and improvement. So already all of you have an idea. But still, just to labor a bit on the concept, what does continuous learning really mean? What comes to your mind? Forget the definition. It's on the screen. You can read it whenever you want. But what comes to your mind? Is there an example that pops up? Or is there a personal experience you would like to share? Continuous learning. What does it mean? It can be exhausting as well, isn't it? What does it mean?
Continuous learning is building over and enhancing whatever you are doing. I mean, acing in that.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. What else?
For example, in IT industry or in computer knowledge and languages, it's evolving and adding up.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need to continuously learn over and over to catch the pace of the ongoing technology.
So I'm going to throw a spanner at the definition. How is it different from upskilling?
It's also by experience.
Okay.
when we are learning, like when you say continuous learning, it's like generally upskilling is for an adult. I will upskill myself when I find a need, either for my job or I think my knowledge is redundant or something. So that's a
Mm.
conscious decision that I'm moving to an upskilling, or someone is telling me to upskill. But I think continuous learning is the learning that we are learning from every day through our work, through our experiences. And even like if I talk about coding, so even when I'm writing a coding something, a new coding which suddenly through research or something, or even when I'm doing it on my own, it can just come to my mind, and that's something which is an example of a continuous learning.
All right,
So,
great.
if we talk about the continuous learning, is like when we talk about CA or doctor, so they need to keep certify themselves. Otherwise, their certificate may get invalid. So, in
Mhm.
every 3 years or 5 years, they need to certified on the learnings of the doctorate or CA.
Huh. All right, go ahead, Ganesh.
Continuous learning is about being curious about the
Mhm.
environment around you, to be
Mhm.
more confident and to
Mhm.
get the more opportunities around you.
Mhm.
And I think the other upskilling, I think everybody said, like it is very specific, and being in a specific domain or somewhere, you
Mhm.
need to fight for that existence, and there you need to
So,
upskilling.
there was a theory which was given by Darwin
Mhm.
theory of evolution. So, it is the best example of continuous learning to survive survive in the new environment.
Yes, yes. I like that. Okay, and the rest of the definitions all hit the spot. I have a tendency to simplify these things so that my head doesn't get jumbled in too many words. How many of you remember from your school days Venn diagrams? How many of you remember Venn diagrams? Do all of you remember Venn diagrams? Most of you, they would be fun, right? They would be overlapping circles and all. So if you had to put various circles about upskilling, reskilling, deskilling, all of that, ladies and gentlemen, will fall under the subset of the huge umbrella called continuous learning. Okay. And it was nicely put together with a bow on top. Darwin's theory of continuous evolution. We have to be agile learners to continue learning in some shape and form. Reskilling, yes. Deskilling, yes. Upskilling, yes. Learning, yes. Changing industry, yes. Um, Learning in any shape and form, be it a new behavior, leadership behavior, all of these overlapping circles all fall into the subset of the big, large superset called continuous learning. Yes, Smita.
Nothing,
Okay,
ma'am,
Smita.
actually. Venn diagrams
Okay.
I have.
Yeah. All of us remember. I remember that Venn diagrams used to be um it used to be a nice mark fetcher in my maths question. Yeah, easy hai. I used to remember it and I always
For
loved
a
it.
person who's phobic towards maths like me, definitely Venn diagrams were the easiest mark scoring one.
Easy one, right? Trigonometry and I was not scared of maths, but these were like really quick mark fetchers. Trigonometry,
I was
diagram.
definitely phobic about maths, so I would say subsets and sets with Venn diagrams were the easy one, and I hope the question paper would be filled with those questions. I always wished for it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's that. So simplifying, guys. Continuous learning is adapting constantly, evolving constantly. And I use this phrase and I love using it. Student for life. Be a student for life. Keep learning. And it doesn't only, and again, this is where I go slightly philosophical. It is not only about learning technical skills, it is also about navigating your life. People who have not managed to really understand this whole world that is changing around us, everything becoming digital, everything on the screen, everybody ping, 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 paying on GPay and this and that. I mean, it's a plethora of learning opportunities which was never existent before. I think we are in the most of the change fatigue, highest of the change fatigue till many centuries till now, especially for people who struggle in trying to learn multiple things, it can be a very, very testing time. Yes, Ganesh.
This may be a little bit twist of this question,
Yes.
but when we are talking about the continuous learning,
Yes.
there is something which I was not able to find anywhere, but some topic emerging up about the unlearning.
Yeah.
So
What's your thought on
just
unlearning? What's your thought on
when,
unlearning?
yeah, when while you transform yourself from childhood to adult,
Mm.
I think many things comes with you which are
Mhm.
not at all expected,
Yes.
and those things probably you need to unlearn, and that
Yes.
the learning should go away. Something
Yes.
like the empathy or sympathy, or many times in this leadership now people says like emotional intelligence. So
Mm.
that I think going diminishing when you go up, but when you're a child, I think it
Oh.
becomes very innocent, and that mind we generally forget. So in continuous
I
learning,
would,
how do we?
yeah, I would say it wouldn't go away. It evolves at a different level, especially
Yeah,
the power of emotion is harnessed. It is a very powerful thing. It is harnessed in a different way when you're at a senior leadership position, as compared to when you're a team leader, as compared to when you're a team member, as compared to when you're a brother, as compared to when you're a daughter, or as compared to when you're the favorite teacher's pet, or as compared to somebody whom the teacher never likes, or somebody whom a girl never asked out. All of those emotions have strong bearing upon how our personalities emerge. And that's why that picture, I am sure all of you have seen it, the iceberg above the water and the iceberg beneath the water. Only 1/3 of the iceberg is visible. That's Tina for you. That's Smita for you. That's Ganesh for you. But what has gone beneath creating what this person is way untangible, and years of conditioning. So it is about how you harness your emotion. And when we talk about leadership programs and other developmental programs, and especially also understanding the importance of how this digital transformation is shaping our lives, comes from a space of wisdom, experience, and also acknowledging the fact that we all need to evolve as our jobs evolve, as our life evolves, as our roles in life evolve. You become a parent, you are no longer a newlywed, your responsibilities change, your emotions are harnessed in a very different way. Now let's talk about unlearning. I have a very simple example. How many of you have migrated from driving a manual car to an automatic car? Most of you? Some of you at least, I hope. Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
If some of you have, you would realize that the idea of not having to use your left leg totally can be very foreign for somebody who just starts the transition from a manual to an automatic. It takes a half an hour or so to get used to. But the idea of not having to change your gears with your hands and not having to use your left leg can be a challenge initially. And it's a very simple example. You need to unlearn that skill because it's gone away. It's no longer relevant. We don't need it anymore. Okay, let's give another fun example. Do you guys remember those antennas which we had to move to get signals when we were younger? Maybe I'm very old, guys. Sorry, I may be just
Yeah,
quoting
yeah.
my age.
Yes, madam.
You,
Yeah.
Yes.
you remember? वो घुमा आया नहीं आया, नहीं वो छत से कोई चिल्ला रहा नीचे से कोई चिल्ला अभी भी नहीं आया आ गया रुक जाओ अरे चला गया अरे कबूतर आ गया. Do you remember those days? It was common for almost all households, right? But now that's a skill we have unlearned. We don't need it anymore. We forget it. But forgetting is very easy when it's completely extinct. But when we have to move like from a manual to an automatic, it is something which is not a huge skill learning, but it is something to unlearn can be difficult initially. Your habit is your hand goes to the gear and you're like, what do I do with this hand? So those are examples where you can use unlearning. For example, there used to be a whole setup. If you guys, I don't know how many have worked in biology labs, there used to be a huge setup for a centrifuge machine where you had these test tubes and you had these clamps and all these
To
things which you
separate,
had to do. And now electronic centrifuge, boss, क्या simple है. कोई sample preparation time नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, बस उसमें डालो, click, 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 करो हो गया. So unlearning the whole idea कि मुझे lab में 45 minutes पहले पहुंचना, I have to do all of that process before I go into centrifuge, is a very easy thing as compared to now I have to start operating this new machine, which requires a different kind of a preparation, which was earlier different. Now this is you have to unlearn and learn something new, which is a part of something which is existing. Again, if you think it as a superset, there used to be this box, which is pre-work, and this work, which is work. Now this pre-work has changed. That means I have to unlearn this. I have to replace this with a new set of learning, and this portion has still 80 to 90% has remained the same. It also does a number on your brain because you're developing new neural pathways, your neural synapses response in a different way when you are unlearning and relearning. So unlearning and learning something new. Sorry, I take it back. Not relearning. Learning something absolutely new. That is where the challenge is. There is often confusion, like you try to use your left foot on the accelerator and you do a disaster. Or you put your hand on the gear and you change it in the middle of a ride and the machine goes and you mess it up. All of that happens, and after a little bit practice you get to know, acha ye bhul gaya ab chalate then you somebody gives you a manual car, you're like, oh ab to nahi aata tha. That time I was struggling. Now I don't even remember how to drive this thing. I was more comfortable with this. So that's a gradual example of unlearning happening. Some happen really quick and then some take a lot of time. Remember those days when you had to go 3 times to the passport office? एक बार form जमा करने, एक बार token लेने, एक बार collect करने. Now let's look at VFS, how the system has changed. We have unlearned it. कोई जरूरत नहीं line पे जाने की. This is a convenient unlearning. You go, one appointment, done. Unlearn. No more lines. But the traditional people said, oh no, how do we gossip now? Especially our dads and all these people. They used SBI as a gossip pad. It was their story pad. वहां जाएंगे, बैठेंगे, एक FD कराने जाएंगे, पूरा पूरा दिन वहां बैठेंगे, घूम फिर के आएंगे. Now that is all gone. All of that has vanished. So there is a huge level of unlearning for that generation, and many people are refusing. And what is happening? Those people are becoming, unfortunately, they're no longer relevant. Their roles are now being taken up by their children. That आप छोड़ दो, आपसे नहीं होगा, we will take care of it. So there is a certain degree of acceptance and appetite that is required for people to unlearn and learn things. Many people give up. Early retirement, नहीं करते हैं. I don't understand all this nonsense these millennials do. I will do consulting work. मुझे ये सब सीखना ही नहीं है. That's a choice. Because some people can still do it. And every person's journey is different. But I think I rubbed the point in. Ganesh, you got it, right? Unlearn.
Thanks, madam.
Yeah, great. All right, let's go back to our screen. Am I sharing? Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, let me go to my screen. Oh, here you go. Oh, okay. You shared the whole window, that's fine. Okay, so that's enough about continuous learning. I think I've pushed the point. We are talking about benefits of continuous learning. Facilitates adaptation, enhances performance, productivity, avoids short-sightedness, secures competitive edge of an organization, creates internal career progression opportunities, higher return on investment, reduced employee turnover. This is one of my favorite ones. If somebody is very engaged in their job, engaged, engrossed, continuously, what should I say? Not slogging on their job, but engaged in a joyful way. As in, they begin their day, something new comes up, then there's something new comes up, or something that they like doing. They will never find the time to click iimjobs.com, or they will never find the job to go to naukri.com, or they will never find a time to go to LinkedIn and like a post or start seeing what is available out there. So how do you make sure that you add so much value to their experiences? Not always learning. Learning to bhai itna hi hai, naukri itni hai, kitna learning de doge? How much of a contribution can your experience at work, your learning experience, your supervisor experience, your peer-to-peer experience, your transport experience, your logistical experience, your building experience, your laptop experience, your culture experience provide that a person is so engaged that they never look up. One of the most effective ways to tie all these experiences together, and who does this job? The employee experience head. Their job is to make sure all the experiences integrate seamlessly. So nowadays in human resources, they have these very, very fancy titles: employee experience head, talent retention head. We call it human resources. It's end to end. But nowadays people have fancy names and fancy directors and all. But eventually, what is the job of us as a learning expert is to provide an experience which is so immersive, so valuable, and so rare that people still want to be engaged with you. What I can tell you as a warning is it is lovely to hear that in the classroom, but in real life, to be able to make that unique difference is becoming tougher and tougher by the day. The only way that you can engage people to that extent is to give them challenges on a regular basis, which keeps them humble, keeps them grounded, and keeps them realizing and acknowledging that this is contributing to them in a level that any other organization they might not get an opportunity. If you can create that unique differentiator, you will see a huge reduction in employee turnover because people want to calm down and say, यहाँ अभी सीखने को बहुत कुछ है. There are some people who would exactly say this. मैं अभी अभी आया यहाँ पे तो सीखने को बहुत कुछ है. That is a testament for the learning expert doing a good job, or the human resources doing a good job, or both of them doing a good job. Enhanced customer experience. Now, customer experience here also means internal customer and external customer. I like to include both. And when we say customer loyalty, it's an outcome. If you're providing great service, great product, obviously the end person who is receiving the product or the service or the interaction will obviously have higher loyalty. This we spoke about at length. Innovation appetite. It opens doors for innovation. And then there is the 5-step strategy. What are those 5 steps? Assess current learning practices in place. How is learning happening? Where is learning happening? कहाँ कर रहे हैं और क्या कर रहे हैं? पहले पता करते हैं. Again, baseline establish करते हैं. Talk to employees. This is my favorite point. Like I keep repeating myself like a broken record. सब जो कर रहे हैं तुम मत करो. पहले देखो तुम्हारे employees को क्या चाहिए. Identify gaps, gather feedback. Then decide on learning medium. Am I going to do mobile learning? या फिर जाके सक्सेस फैक्टर में खूब सारे पैसे उड़ा के बैठ जाऊं, या फिर मैं अभी blended learning शुरू करूं, and then later on I slowly transition by year 2 to a complete learning management system. It can be phased approach, doesn't have to be all together. Then instill the learning culture and create awareness. Based on your step 1, 2, and 3, then you can start building the learning culture. For example, no paper anymore. Nobody uses PDF anymore. PDF readers को uninstall कर दो, step. Do communication, remove all PDF read. Now you go onto the portal and read it. One small change. This becomes a mini step, micro step in implementing a strategy. So you start instilling the learning culture bit by bit. And the more you do it, create testaments, send out, not emails, nobody reads emails nowadays, short information bites. We said bite-sized information out to people. Find your champions, find your leaders to address people in huddles, etc. To Zoom webinars to make sure that the learning culture in the organization is changing, and the WIFM, make it clear to people what's in it for you. And then make the learning engaging through gamification. Do all organizations reach there? Not necessarily. Not all organizations require the level of gamification required. Some people do, some people even making your PowerPoint interactive, putting in animation elements, converting them into a video kind of a mode. We did some of the learning modules simply on PowerPoint, but then they created a video of it. And it would, only after you complete certain points, the other portions of the PowerPoint would show up. That can also be a basic level of gamification that is required in your organization. You do not have to get the whole shebang. So you, again, the learning expert, decide the justice you want to do the budget with the budget you've got and with the outcome that is decided by the organization, required by the organization. So that's your 5-step strategy to design your organization's continuous learning journey. Again, repeating myself, there isn't a right or wrong response to this. Neither is there a fixed time frame. It all depends upon you as to what outcomes you want to achieve and how high the continuous learning agenda is on your priority. For example, you have a financial companies which sell credit cards and all. For them, it is not a continuous, उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ता. They have a very vanilla kind of a setup. And for them, if you pitch this, they will say it's a waste of money. I want very basic vanilla level learning. I don't need continuous learning. I need repeatability because my turnover is huge. I have a vicious cycle. People come, they perform and they leave. And then another one comes and they leave. So where your impact is required is the retention bit and engagement in a way that people stay. But having a complete 5-step strategy might not be necessary. So you, as the learning expert, take the call in conjunction with your business leaders and what they are trying to achieve as a business outcome. Unless and until your alignment with your business stakeholders is seamless, you will never get a seat at the table. You will always be the dessert, the side dish. If you want to have a plate in the seat or you want to have a spot in the main menu, you have to align your agenda and show value. It's the unfortunate and bitter truth that sometimes the do and tell is not working. The show and tell works more. Okay. So it's very important. All of you, please implant it as a trigger so that whenever somebody says show and tell, you remember Tina. Show and tell, guys. It's very important. Take a working example before you pitch an idea. If you just take an idea or you do it without taking permission, both of them can be dangerous. But if you take a case which supports your conversation, supports your idea, shows the value that it will add, you become more convincing, you become more attractive, and your ideas will get more traction. How do you build a culture of continuous learning? First of all, don't silo it, sirf leadership ke liye. Nahi, it's for everybody. Make it available to everyone, top to bottom. Promote a culture of learning even before the potential employees join. So there are some companies which is beautiful onboarding. पहले ही दिन में आपको पोर्टल वोटल भेज देते हैं, यूजर नेम पासवर्ड भेज देते हैं. आप अपनी onboarding पहले ही शुरू करो. Read about us before. So there are organizations which will do an onboarding -7 days. So 7 दिन पहले आपको धीरे धीरे material भेजना शुरू करेंगे. So now you are making them interested in you. You're not being interesting. You are making sure they are interested in your journey and your understanding of the culture that they are going to experience in a few days. Create visibility for learning opportunities. Those days are gone when it used to be a privilege. अरे इसको वो स्पेशल ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम में भेज दे. इसको कैसे भेज रहे? हमें तो नहीं पता चला कभी हुआ. कैसे हुआ इसका सिलेक्शन? नॉमिनेशन भेज दे. हाँ बस पता चल गया ना कैसे हुआ. Those days are gone. Doesn't happen anymore. If you want an unbiased, very transparent learning culture, unless and until it's like a mentoring program or a coaching program, which is very high budget, highly personalized, very intensive, most of the learning opportunities should be available for everybody and with the criteria that it is there, you will get it when you get there. But right now, you're not eligible. Transparency is the key, guys. If you see, Generation X, Y, and Z, these are the ones who are prevalent, boots on the ground. So transparency is the key. There is no politics. There is no reading between the lines. There is no aap pehle, oho, jor se nahi bolna. All of that is gone. So create visibility for learning opportunities. Endorsement from senior leadership. We've spoken about this enough. We need our champions. Middle management should support you. You have to find your allies. चलो लीडर को तो पटा लिया, उसके नीचे जितने लोग हैं, they don't necessarily hate you, but they also don't like you. Your agenda will fall flat. Or even if it does fly, वो थोड़ा सा उड़ के फिर नीचे आ जाएगा. You have to find your allies. Who are the people who believe in the cause? And again, you have to show and tell. You have to show तेरे को ये फायदा होगा, तेरे नंबर बढ़ेंगे, तेरा you will be able to achieve XYZ goal and you can be the champion who actually implemented the whole thing in your team. Tu mere saath kaam karna, collaborate with me. Find your allies. Do what requires to be done and understand the wisdom for the other person so that you can play to that. Develop a learning plan for each employee. Well, each employee, when we say each employee, that's a far reach. What we are saying is employee strata. People who have different kinds of learning needs, people who have different styles of assimilating information. Nobody should feel left out. So there should be something for everyone. Make employees equally responsible. Now, this is my favorite. Most of the time, in the 90s, especially, even early 2000, people would say, "Oh, कुछ कराते ही नहीं company, कुछ सिखाते ही नहीं, क्यों program में भेजते नहीं." So now this becomes like a blame on nobody supports us, nobody is interested in my growth. But it is a two-way path. You have to be equally interested in developing yourself. The company can come halfway. The learning expert can come halfway, but you have to make the rest of the journey. The people who crib the most are the ones when nominated in programs are looking at their mobile phone. They're making excuses to go out for trainings, or they're saying, "ये बाद में recording देख लूंगा." Those are the people. They have to be made accountable and responsible. So generally, mid to senior level programs are made 10% payable. You will have to pay and you will get a reimbursement later only when you clear it. Why? There is a certain amount of accountability that is being invited, that while we are coming halfway, you will also have to come halfway. There are certain education at work programs like XLRI, etc. You are supposed to pay 40%. The company pays 60%. You get the 40% back if you are able to clear it within the time frame, and then you produce the papers and the company gives you back the 40%. Otherwise, you still get the degree, but you have to pay the 40% yourself. These are not blood-sucking schemes. These are making people interested in their own learning journey and making them very, very clearly acknowledge that it is also 50% of their job to improve. They just can't put blame on someone else and say that, "Oh, well, I didn't get an opportunity, that's why I didn't learn." Get strategic and get aligned. I think I dubbed this enough. Now we are going to talk about technology, trends, and continuous learning. So I quickly move the slide. Are there any questions on this? Any thoughts, any comments? Anyone likes to share anything? Have I lost you guys? Are you guys asleep?
No, ma'am, we are here.
No, ma'am, it's all good.
I was
Yes.
about to start singing a song. All right. In case there are no more questions, because it's not really a complicated slide, let's look at technology trends. Okay, I am not going to talk too much on this because ये सब हम लोगों को पता है. This is not something new. But what I will do is allow you guys to read each one of them. Then I'm going to do one click, which will basically marry these concepts here with how it matches into continuous learning. So right now, what you see are the technology trends. So take a minute, read them. I'm going clockwise. Gamification, immersive learning, individualized learning, self-directed learning, informal learning technologies, digital knowledge sharing, content management systems, micro-learning, and mobile learning. Now, if we marry it with continuous learning, it says how these can provide, and they are not matched to any single one of these. Basically, these, when used together, will allow us to conduct self-assessments, using social networks for pushing continuous learning, provide us learning analytics, which will further allow us to bolster continuous learning, provide cohesive structures for adaptation of continuous learning, implement blended learning techniques, and will allow us to effectively use rewards and recognition. All of this contribute to developing a culture of continuous learning in an organization. Questions, if any? And guys, we'll cover this in minor detail, all of them. We will touch upon them, but not today, because today has been very heavy. I do not want to, lose all of you. Any questions? Pin drop silence. So I'm assuming that this has either completely not landed, or you guys are waiting for more explanation on these one of them, and then we can maybe revisit this slide. How does this sound?
No, ma'am, it's good to go. I mean, it is more self-explanatory only.
Okay, good. I haven't lost all of you. All right. So that's that. I do not want to add any more information today. It's been very heavy, but then these slides will reach you. We'll talk to you on 22nd September on the second part of this. This is going to be interesting because you will get to finally see the technology implementation on all of these continuous learning development and try a few things and understand how it works on, if not the deepest of levels, but then at a mid level, good enough for you to have a effective conversation with a vendor or somebody who's trying to sell you a service. They will not be able to take you for a ride. All right. Thank you for being patient, guys. Smita, go ahead. You have a question. We have some time.
No, not a question, ma'am, basically, just to end not with the commercial things, but I just felt there's a Zen story on called A Great Waves, if anyone has read that,
Uh-huh.
where a wrestler is trained on the seashore for the highest waves, for the self-confidence. I believe
Yeah.
the previous slides, I think 4 to 5 concepts relate to that, wherein you have this, if I can, wherein you have this immersive learning,
Immersive
individual
learning.
learning,
Yes. Yes.
micro learning, all these concepts would go into that story.
Of course. It will. Thank you, Smita. Beautiful analogy. Yes, Ganesh.
Yeah, I mean, this is not related to the session, but about, I mean, the author of the same book is teaching, and that was
Okay.
really, I mean, I think very nice to learn that with the diverse knowledge. And
Yeah.
I think I just read, I mean, that book, and
Mhm.
I saw something like that access consciousness practitioner. So if you can tell me a
Yeah.
little bit, if you have time. And then the
Yeah.
last line was also quite beautiful, I think. Every day on this planet, blah, 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 and learn
Yeah.
always. So I
Yes.
think that also relates with our previous topic, that continuous learning.
Yes.
And that was really
Being a
nice
student for
quotes, I
life.
think.
Being a student
Yeah.
for life. Yeah. So, yeah. So